in the lives of every official of this great city of Maricopa. We pray for all those in authority. We pray, Father, for the law enforcement. We pray for the fire department. We pray for the city council, Lord. We pray for the mayor. Father, we just thank you for your blessing. May divine protection and provision as they unselfishly serve others to make this community a better and safer place in which to live. Let the city be an example of what can be accomplished with great leadership like we have. I pray that the Lord would bless you and keep you, that the Lord would make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you, that the Lord would lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. Amen.
Who will introduce Interim Chief Leffler. We have an Act of Valor and Heroism Award that we'd like to present tonight. Brad, Interim Chief.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, Interim City Manager Tricia Sorensen, and distinguished members of Maricopa Unified School District, President Scott Bartle, HR Director Tom Beckett, Director of Transportation Fred Laguna. It is my pleasure to be here tonight presenting the City of Maricopa Fire Department's Act of Valor and Heroism Award to two well-deserving staff members of the Maricopa Unified School District, Mrs. Allison Butler and Mr. Mike Richardson. Are they here? Oh, right there. On October 17, 2013, at 1:42 p.m., engines 574 and Southwest Ambulance was dispatched to an unconscious, breathing male at the Maricopa Unified School District bus barn. Two employees, Allison Butler and Mike Richardson, had witnessed their coworker in distress and acted quickly. They dialed 911, and when the patient became unconscious, they started CPR and connected an AED to his chest. When the fire crew arrived on scene, paramedic firefighter Damon Flattery was first to make contact with as the AED as he advised them to shock the patient. Mr. Richardson then pressed the shock button, and paramedic Flattery assessed the patient to find a pulse. Engine 574 and Southwest Ambulance quickly started to administer advanced cardiac life support and transported the patient to Chandler Regional Hospital. En route to the facility, the patient's level of consciousness increased in response to the paramedics' treatment. By the time the crew arrived at Chandler Regional Hospital emergency room, the patient was alert and oriented. This positive outcome was largely in part due to the fast, appropriate actions taken by Mrs. Butler and Mr. Richardson. They did everything right during a time of crisis when their coworker needed them the most. Early activation of the 911 system, good, effective CPR, and use of an AED improved the patient's odds for surviving this cardiac event. For the quick and heroic actions of these two individuals, we would like to present Mrs. Butler and Mr. Richardson the Act of Valor and Heroism Awards. Mr. Mayor, would you like to present the awards?
has our seal on the back. We would like to present those to you.
Thank you.
On behalf of a grateful city. Thank you. Sorry about that.
I would first like to say thank you to God for bringing Dave with us in our future. Ultimately, that is his call. Also, I would like to say to my coworkers who were there, it was a complete team effort from everybody. Sergio Polito, Claudia Verdugo, Fred Laguna, Susie Thomas, Gregory Maguia. Without you guys, none of this would have happened or fell into place like it did. It was everybody's actions and quick support. If you could please stand up, all 5 of you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And Dave, it's a pleasure to have you here watching us right now. I'm so happy to see you.
And now, on behalf of the Arizona Department of Health Services and the Safe Hearts and the Arizona Registry and Education Program, the SHARE program, on behalf of Dr. Bob Rowe, the Medical Director and Bureau of EMS and Travel Services for the state of Arizona, we'd also like to present certificates to Mr. Richardson, Ms. Butler, Captain Jim Larimore, firefighter paramedic Tom Reed, and firefighter Damian Flaherty for their heroism today and their life-saving efforts from that incident. So.
Let's grab a picture with everybody that was involved. And, we'd love to have everybody that was involved. Please come forward.
Okay, can we have Dave up here as well?
Please, absolutely. Can you get this picture? It's a wide angle. We'll have to suck it in here a little bit. That better? Come on in here. We're all buddies here. That's right. I do Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Very much. Thank you. Appreciate it. A pleasure. Thank you. Thanks so much. We're happy you're here. Thank you again, appreciate it. And again, congratulations to all those involved. We're always appreciative for those citizens who step up in acts of heroism, and no one could be more thankful than the individual who receives that act, so we appreciate that. At this time, we're going to move on to item 4. We have a report from the mayor. We have a variety of things here to discuss at this time. First off, I wanted to thank the we have a grant that we received. I wanted to thank Gila River Indian Community. They were they recently granted us $37,644 in an immediate response team. This is kind of like a SWAT team of comparison. It's a little smaller, so it's not a full SWAT, but it's something that we certainly need here in the city of Maricopa, and so we're indeed grateful for the Gila River Grant Program for allowing that. At this time, I wanted to announce also that the State of the City address will be on this Thursday in these chambers here, starting at 6 and going to about 8 p.m. You're all welcome, but we encourage you to RSVP as the seating is limited, but we encourage everyone to attend to find out a little bit about where we've come from and where we're going as a city. We also have a time in which we're going to be in these chambers again tomorrow evening, and this is for the U.S. Conference of Mayors President, Mayor Scott Smith, who is the U.S. Conference of Mayors President, a national organization who lobbies in Washington on the behalf of local municipalities. He's coming out here to inquire about some of the challenges that we face, both locally and regionally, that he can go back to Washington and lobby on our behalf for. The title that I've seen around so far has been Mayors Discuss Floodplain Issues. That doesn't sound like the most entertaining seminar, but I do encourage you to actually come and listen. I think you will actually be rather surprised at where the conversation goes. And so again, that is open to the public and here tomorrow night at 6 p.m. Also wanted to mention that, again, the Shop Local program is still in full swing, and Chief Stahl is still being detained. He hasn't moved here since last week. He's been chained at this podium ever since. So if you'd please upload your shopping local receipts, whether it's a trip to Walmart, you buy a car, you get your dry cleaning done, we encourage you to upload those receipts to the website, and so we can free Chief Stahl. At this time, we also have Maricopa 101 is starting up again. This is the city's Development Services Department, and it's on Wednesday, November 13, for an overview of the sign code and how that applies to your business or home. If you're looking to add permanent or temporary signs to your business, this is an event that you really do want to come to and learn about. We're going to be discussing signage opportunities allowed within the city. We'll also discuss the holiday signage program, the holiday homes and businesses on parade. We have a decorating contest and funding available for the sign and facade improvement program. So again, Wednesday, November 13th from 5 to 6 p.m. here at City Hall. This will be in the Zephyr Conference Room. We also have the application still open for the nonprofit funding evaluation team. As you may remember, the council changed the way that we do funding for nonprofits in the city, and as such we have 7 vacancies to fill that we would like to have citizens come and be a participant in helping us decide which are the most worthy causes to award this money to. And there is a whole system of things to go by, and so it really will be a unique opportunity to participate in something that has not yet been done before in the city of Maricopa. So if you're interested in that, please send your application to Vanessa Borres, who is the city clerk. She's right here in front, and you can find her address or email on the City Hall website. At this time, I wanted to turn it over to Councilwoman Gussie, who had an announcement for Veterans and Veterans Day.
This week, Central Arizona College on Thursday will have their first Veteran Recognition Day. It'll be November 7th, this Thursday at 12:30. We'll also have, Akchin is going to have some celebration and some events going on Saturday morning, November 9th. And Legacy Tradition will also have their annual Veterans Day celebration on Monday, Veterans Day at 8:30. And Akchin, the Multi-Tenement Center, will have events going on this weekend also for Veterans Day. And I just wanted to inform the residents that we do have over 4,000 residents in Maricopa that are veterans, military veterans, and we'd like to thank them for their service and make sure we acknowledge them this weekend. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That concludes the report from the mayor at this time. So we'll move on to the report from the city manager. Tricia.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. We have a couple of announcements. I'm going to bring some of my directors off. The first is Bill Fay. He would like to introduce a new employee.
Through the mayor, members of the council, the city of Maricopa is really lucky we scored a first-round draft pick. As you are aware, we've had actually every city's had a history of having a hard time finding good qualified engineers, and we were able to recruit one from the city of Chandler. Josh Plum is an Arizona native. He's a graduate of the most superior institute of higher education in the state, ASU. Josh, however, is a little bit unique in today's job market. He had a few jobs prior to becoming an engineer, but since he became an engineer for the last 13 years, he has worked at one place, the city of Chandler. Now, while at the city of Chandler, he was originally hired as an engineering intern. He was then promoted within the city to an engineer, promoted again to project manager, promoted to engineering project manager, and I personally had the privilege of promoting him to be the senior engineering project manager when I worked with him at the city of Chandler. He also is a registered professional engineer, which is the ideal license that we've been trying to recruit and had a really hard time getting for quite some time. So, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Mayor and ladies and gentlemen of the council, I'd like you to welcome Josh Plum to the city staff. Thank you.
Welcome to the team.
At this time, I'd like to have Jennifer Campbell come up.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. As Audra Trudell did a wrap-up of Stagecoach last council meeting, we would like to honor our sponsors. As we talked about, our sponsors play a very important role in our events here in the city, and we would like to acknowledge them for their very generous giving, whether it be through in-kind or monetary. So tonight we'd like to honor our sponsors for the 2013 Stagecoach Days. First up, and this is my lovely assistant, Brenda Campbell. First up, I would like to have Lee Filas with ATA Martial Arts and Karate for Kids. He was one of our Buckaroo sponsors of the Kids Corral Inflatables for $500. Thank you very much, Lee. Next up, I'd like to have Scott Bartle within Maricopa. He was also a Buckaroo sponsor for $500. Next up, we have Maricopa Smiles Dentistry and Orthodontics, Marcy Gomez. And again, she was a Buckaroo Kids Corral Inflatable sponsor. We thought she might show. Next up, we have from the Pinal County Attorney's Office, making up one of our Kids Corral sponsors is Lando Voiles. And also State Farm Insurance, Courtney Tyler and Lance Lane was also one of the Buckaroo sponsors. They are not here tonight, but we thank them as well. Not in attendance tonight was our copper sponsor for $1,000, which was Dignity Health, Urgent Care of Maricopa, so we appreciate that. We'll get their award to them. Next up, of course, what would Stagecoach Days be without a stagecoach? So we would like to bring up Donovan Sutton, our Giddy Up Stagecoach sponsor for $2,500. Next up, we had our Silver Spur sponsor. This is Hillary Ann with What's Up Copa for $3,500. And our Platinum Saddle sponsor for $5,000 was Orbitel Communications. John Schurz, please come up. So again, I'd like to present to you the 2013 sponsors of Stagecoach Days. Let's give them a big hand. They help make the events great here in Maricopa.
Thank you again to each of those sponsors, without which your support was just, those events are just not possible. So thank you so much.
Mayor, before I finish, Brenda, don't, get back up here. Come over here. If you all noticed the wonderful decorations in the lobby tonight, we actually had a meeting yesterday morning to discuss decorating the lobby for the holidays, and in the span of less than 24, a little bit more than 24 hours, Brenda accomplished what she did out in the lobby. So let's give her a big round of applause. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, City Manager. At this time, we move to the call of the public. At this time, we open the microphone for those members of the public that wish to address the council. We have 2 speaker cards, and so I will call on them first. But just as a typical reminder to call the public, please be brief, 2-3 minutes at tops, and just be aware that at this time the City Council doesn't typically respond to concerns or things at that time, but it doesn't mean that we don't take them each seriously. So again, if you'd please approach the podium. The first one, I'd like to have Sydney McDill. Sydney? Okay, so is that Katie or Casey? Casey Swafield. She's coming up first.
Hello. I'm Casey Swafield. You may know me if you have seen me at the school board meeting on September 11th. I was explaining to everyone about Tommy Fitzgerald and who he was, and how my best friend and I, Sydney McDill, how we started a petition to get a baseball field at Bacana Park that he played at, named after him. Well, we are here today to show you, to turn in our signatures. But first, I'd like to speak a little bit about Tommy. Tommy cared about respect and trustworthiness. His mother just recently found a journal that he wrote in last year about respect. It says, "Respect is a very important key to living a good life. If people didn't respect each other, everything would be chaos. It's good to treat others the way we want to be treated. When you show respect to everybody around you, you will get more friends. It will change the environment, and people will respect you as well. You should be respectful to people every day. Remember, respect is the key to a happy life." Well, now this petition does make sense because he played there for 6 years of his life, and all that time spent for practices and games. And if you think about it, wouldn't it be amazing to drive past the Tommy Fitzgerald baseball field every day? I think his family would love that, and his friends would appreciate that. That's all Tommy wanted, like he always says. Plus, to be able to say we as a community did that. That's all Tommy wanted, and like he always said, life, love, and community. We are granting his wish. And life is a journey. That's why we should never give up, and never say never. There is a saying I've been relating to. Courage isn't having the strength to go on. It's going on when you no longer have the strength. It's been really hard on me since Tommy passed away, because he was like a brother to me, and I will never forget him. I also know another person who will never forget him, Freya Abraham. She knew him for a long time, and she even sang a song that she recently wrote about him. People care about Tommy Fitzgerald, and we as a community have done our part, and I would love if you would look into our petition that I have with us today.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Sydney McDill.
Respect is a very important key to living a good life. This quote from Tommy shows who he was as a person. My dad, who coached him in baseball, said he was a good sport too. Maricopa Little League has a Good Sportsmanship Award that they give out at closing ceremonies at the conclusion of every season. My dad got this award to be named after Tommy. It is now the Tommy Fitzgerald Award for Good Sportsmanship. Casey and I spoke at the school board meeting on September 11th. After that, Wanda Torres established the Tommy Fitzgerald Baseball Memorial Field Facebook page where people could sign online. The petition was an idea created by 2 6th grade girls at lunch with the help of our teacher and our classmates, we were able to turn it into something big. We definitely want to thank Mrs. Ricosi and the rest of our 6th grade class because they were our first signatures, and if Mrs. Ricosi hadn't told us that it was a good idea, we wouldn't have done it. We found 312 people to sign the petition. We got them to sign. We did our part, and we're asking you right now if you can please help Tommy's memory live on and do yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Sydney and Casey. I will tell you this, again, the council doesn't typically respond, but we will take those signatures and we will do our part as a council to further investigate and see what we can get done and do our part, as you said. So thank you. Gina.
Good evening. My name is Gina Diabella with Environmental Concerns Organization Incorporated, and thanks to a grant from the city's nonprofit funding program, we are happy to announce an upcoming event on Saturday, November 16th for Maricopa residents to be able to recycle their tires and household hazardous waste. So tires, we will accept all except for farm tractor tires, so any car or truck passenger tires. We will be accepting batteries and paint and motor oils, fluorescent light bulbs, cell phones, electronics, appliances, and other household hazardous chemicals. And all these will be accepted for free from 9 to 2, Saturday, November 16th. And there are some flyers out in the lobby if anybody needs a map on how to get to our facility, as well as if anybody would like to have flyers posted at their business, HOA bulletin boards, or if they want a graphic that they can forward on to their friends, to their neighbors and colleagues, then I have that available as well, and my contact information is on the flyer. So thank you so much, Mayor and Council, for allowing us the opportunity to provide this very necessary and green event for the city to help our city stay clean and green. And I also want to just shout out a thank you, another thank you to Councilman Farrell and Councilman Potter. A couple weeks ago, they helped at a desert cleanup out in the vehicle wash area. It was a very small little 10-acre area, but you know, we had about 60 volunteers, and both Councilman Potter and Farrell were there to help clean up some of the illegally dumped trash and tires that unfortunately ends up in our neighboring beautiful deserts here in Maricopa. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Gina. Anyone else like to come to the call of the public? Eric.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Vice Mayor, City Council, city officials, and all our esteemed guests tonight. My name is Eric Klotch. I'm the director for our city, Maricopa, and I just want to take a minute and talk about the Shop with a Cop program. The Shop with a Cop program was brought here 2 years ago. This is our second event that we're working on. And simply enough, it's an opportunity to take underprivileged kids shopping at the holiday time by pairing them up with a local police officer and creating a unique shopping experience. It turns out to be an experience for both parties. After having a chance to talk to several of the officers that were involved in last year's event, they came away with a new perspective on what this can really do to help strengthen our community and to actually impact the youth in our community. This year we have a goal of $6,000. We started out with a grant of $1,500 from Walmart, and as of Friday, our grand total to this point is $6,460. That's been raised. This has been raised through several different things. There were Native New Yorker put on a couple of what they call tip-a-cop events, where our local officers from the MPD were there throughout the day, waiting on tables, bussing tables, serving food. And we had a silent auction that we just ran for the past 2 weeks. We also have had private donations. And I have challenged City Council to everybody to step up and sponsor one child for $110. So if you haven't done so yet, please step up and do so. Our Shop with a Cop event doesn't take place until December 14th. It'll be held at Walmart here in town. The kids and the officers will be provided breakfast by McDonald's. And I just want to kind of give a shout out to McDonald's and Walmart for stepping up. And we are actually working on an additional $2,000 grant with Walmart. We're going to be taking 35 kids as it stands this year. Last year we took 16 kids. This year we're going to be able to take 35 kids to this event. And the additional money is already being put into projects like a backpack program and possibly doing something with the Optimist Club for their Christmas that they do with the Head Start program. So I just want to give a shout out on that and say thank you, and thank you to everybody here. So.
Thank you very much. Any others for call to the public at this time? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and close the call to the public and move on to the minutes. I wanted to turn a quick moment over to Councilman Farrell and Potter.
Mayor, I'd like to recuse myself from the next two agenda items, 7.1 and 7.2.
Okay, we have a recusal from Vice Mayor Farrell on 7.1 and 7.2. Councilman Potter?
Mayor, I'd like to recuse myself from item 7.1.
Okay, and recusal on 7.1. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes? We'll do them individually. 7.1, please. We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 7.2, can I have a motion to approve, please?
So moved.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. At this time, we're going to move to the consent agenda. The consent agenda is slated for approval minus item 913, which has been removed to the regular agenda. Can I have a motion to approve, please? Have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. That takes us to the regular agenda, and we will now begin discussion on item 913. I will turn this to Vice Mayor Farrell.
Thank you, Mayor. I think there was enough discussion at work session, and I thank Tricia and Chief Leffler for explanations. They're very good explanations. However, we had an interesting conversation and work session about the ethics code, and although there's nothing wrong with what the city manager's doing, because she has that power to do that, it's just, in my mind, unethical, because this is on an interim basis. When we hired this city manager, she knew and we knew that this was an interim position. She told us in that meeting that she just wanted to ride the ship until a permanent manager came on. We have an interim fire chief at the same time that are both proposing this organizational structure. If you'll recall, when we were interviewing these city managers for interim levels, I personally didn't think it was necessary to do a national search, but it was then City Manager Brenda Fisher said that she thought that would be a bad idea because, if I remember her quote, you just might find that all-star in Connecticut. Well, she's right. We're doing a national search, and we just might find that all-star in Connecticut. And if that all-star city manager in Connecticut comes and chooses to change the organizational structure that's in place, he or she has that power or authority to do so. So I just don't see any reason to change this organizational structure until we have permanent positions at the city management level and the fire chief level, and then we can move forward. If there was a guarantee that you could say, we guarantee that this organizational structure chart will stay in place when the new management comes on board. I might have a different opinion on it, but there are no guarantees. It has absolutely nothing to do with the interim fire chief. I'm a huge Chief Leffler fan. I've seen the support letters from IFFA. I have the utmost respect for the IFFA, and when they write a letter like that, they know what they're talking about, and they must know what they're talking about when they talk about you, Chief, and I'm a huge fan of yours. I hope that we have you for many years to come, but that's on a different subject. Right now, we're dealing with an interim level, and it's just not ethical in my mind to approve this organizational structure chart until permanent positions come on, Mayor.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Council, any other thoughts or questions? Yes, Councilwoman Gussie.
I agree with you with what you had mentioned regarding our search. At this point, I had met with, do you mind coming up, interim fire chief? I had met with him, and I believe you met with the rest of the council, possibly? Most of the council, all right. And there's more to be said than just steering that ship. You had mentioned that we were all in the conversation where our interim city manager had mentioned that she was taking the position to steer that ship. Without insulting anyone, I mean, without a mutiny on her hands either. One of the things that you had mentioned was the fact that you needed the structure. And you felt, we had a great conversation, you felt that you needed to establish that structure. And you needed to establish that chain of command also. Right. You believed in your mind at the time, and I'm sure you still believe it today, that this structure was necessary for you to conduct the chain of command that you had drawn out for me, and it was laid out really nice, and you felt that it was necessary to have this in order for you to conduct business from this point forward. Do you still feel that way today?
Even more so today.
And seeing all the letters of support from the fire department that from the union, fire union, regarding that support of you, at the same time, they've seen the structure, that you've laid out that structure to them also?
Yes.
Yes. And they believe that this is what they were looking for? Because this is what the conversation that I had with a couple of firemen, that this is the structure that they've been looking for and they've been desiring for the last couple of years.
I believe so. It essentially is operationally based. It's a professional standard to have an operations focus, especially with some of the things that I've uncovered in terms of operational deficiencies. And that was my primary focus. The secondary benefit of this was to provide a different chain of command so that it didn't all stop at the top. I believe that was part of the problem in the past with it going to one place and only one place, and that focus was overwhelming at that point. By making by spreading out the areas of responsibility so that they can focus purely on those areas of responsibility, it allows the operational portion of the fire department to come up to professional standards and to keep the citizens safe and to look at the target hazards of this city that were neglected in the past.
And you see that the reporting structure that you have, that's necessary to keep the ship riding in the direction that we all want this city to go to.
Absolutely, and again, I'll go back to the previous structure. What it did was it forced the battalion chiefs to take on the majority of the administrative function, which took them away from their primary focus, which is scene performance, crew performance, and looking at the target hazards and looking at their operational deficiencies.
Okay, thank you. And my last comment, who's to say that the next city manager, if it's not, or the next interim, the next permanent fire chief doesn't come in and change the structure altogether? That's within his right also. But at this point, if we want that ship to continue to be on a steady flow until we find our permanent city manager, I mean, I couldn't agree with you more with some of the structures that you're trying to change. So that's why I'm in favor of moving forward with this.
Thank you. Councilman Potter.
Question regarding assuming when a new city manager comes on board, and just say a proposal for a new organization happens, wouldn't council need to approve that change as well? No?
Legal? Legal?
Like tonight, we're,
Depend on what was getting restructured. I mean, part of it, the position's already created. Council creates positions. So if the position's already there, I mean, the fire chief has the authority to move people around and things like that.
okay, thank you. I did meet with Chief regarding, organization in general, the fire department specifically, and I gotta say that some of the questions that I was asking is almost like he was, I don't know who's reading whose mind. I was asking questions regarding organizational structure, not knowing that this was going to come forward, and he did say it would be coming before council tonight. But everything that I asked, he had a response for it regarding the organizational structure and efficiency and what's good for the fire department and overall what's good for the city. And everything that I asked, and I don't have a fire background at all, but just organizational structure itself, he had the answers for me, and he was very detailed. And then going through the agenda item tonight, I understand your concerns about that, but I think the question before us is if we're okay with the organizational change as proposed in the agenda, and I am. So regardless of where we are a few months down the road with our director and our city manager, tonight I'm okay with how it's proposed.
Let's go to Councilwoman Chapados and then back to Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. I would echo the sentiments of my fellow council members, and some of the key points that I would like to mention is it wasn't all that long ago that we as a council sat in a room with an interim police chief. And that police chief, granted he had some of the results of an audit available to him, but he also made some significant changes for the betterment of the department. I think also that the buzzword right now for a lot of Maricopa issues is stability. I think what's proposed by Interim Fire Chief Leffler brings stability to Maricopa Fire and to the city of Maricopa as well. Also, our city manager and various other people are brought here because of their experience and their expertise. As a council member, I rely on that experience and expertise to bring forth recommendations that are in the best interest of the city. I wholeheartedly support this change.
Okay. Vice Mayor?
And I understand the organization structure is broken. Please don't get me wrong. I totally understand that. I'm just talking on an interim level. If we don't choose this new organizational structure tonight, is it put any of our citizens in any type of danger?
I believe it does.
And can you explain why, please?
The current operational readiness of the department was sadly lacking. And again, I'll reiterate that it stopped at the top, and it didn't have the attention that it deserved or it required. And what it did was it initially put so much pressure, and still does to this day, on the battalion chiefs to handle all the administrative duties, all the oversight for program improvement, all the oversight for anything having to do other than what I want them to be doing right now is to shore up the operational readiness of this fire department. And so I absolutely believe that it does put the city in a bad place.
Councilwoman Gussie.
I just had a quick question for the Vice Mayor. We just on consent, we approved 8 different positions on consent right now. And these, I'm going to say that these positions are essential to the city running. But if you didn't feel that these were questionable, but yet the restructuring of the fire department is questionable?
Absolutely. I'm not questioning. The question that I have isn't about positions. It's about the organizational structure. I've been on councils before, and I've had city managers in this city who haven't even had a fire chief, haven't even had a police chief on staff. 90 days, we could be sitting in this building and not even have a fire chief in the city of Maricopa. We might not even have a police chief in the city of Maricopa. That's all up to the permanent city manager's discretion. So I don't know what the new city manager is going to do, and all I'm saying is that's less than 90 days away. Why do we need to get excited about changing the organizational structure within a department when it's on an interim level basis, when it can very easily be changed in less than 90 days? All I'm asking is to wait less than 90 days for the organizational structure to change. Period.
Council, other comments, thoughts? Councilman Kimball?
I think I'm going to agree with all the other council members except for Councilmember Farrell in regards to having met with the interim chief, if I think everybody has. When he laid out the organizational structure for me, I was like, why haven't we had this all along? And I think it really goes in line with the direction that the police chief had when he came on as an interim in changing the organizational structure of that department. I don't have really anything else to say other than I like it, and I think it's a necessary change, and I don't see the harm in implementing it now as opposed to 90 days down the road. So I would support it.
Okay.
I'd make a motion.
Just momentarily. You know, I think it's an interesting analogy that we use when we talk about an interim city manager and you know what it is to right a ship or to continue to steer a ship. You know, I've tried to put myself back in 1735, and I'm sailing on a ship, and you know what it means to have a captain at that helm, and you know the reality is that you don't expect storms to happen, but sometimes they do, and when that storm happens, you know, you have to have faith and confidence in your leadership that they will be able to handle that storm. And you know, even though when you started out sailing that day, it was smooth sailing and you know, clear skies, sometimes things change and things happen. Now, the Vice Mayor, you bring up a really interesting point about the fact that it is true in a council manager form of government that things can change, and the city manager is the boss over the staff, and the staff could disappear tomorrow. You're right. The city manager could make the recommendation to council that we don't need a police chief, we don't need a fire chief. However, at the same time, I think that it also warrants looking at the fact that, you know, as a city of 45,000 people that is moving upwards, that currently has those positions, you know, that is possibly the extreme, and that, you know, to see that change would probably not go backwards, it would probably only go forwards. So that being said, looking at the item itself and restructuring something that is broken, I think that we've sailed into that storm, and that when the storm is made aware to us, that we have to make a decision based on the facts that surround it at the time. When I see this system being broken as it is, and I see that these firefighters, as I've talked to them, both all up and down the different ladders of levels, from the fire chief down to somebody that was just hired. Truly, I haven't had a chance to speak to every firefighter, but I did find that there was an overall acceptable view that there needs to be opportunity, there needs to be cross-training, there needs to be a fixing of the system, and that ultimately this is crucial as we move into our budgetary timing. You do bring up a good point about the 90 days, and whether it's a 90 days up front or 90 days out the back. But at the same time, if we're truly moving into the budgetary process, that is going to be upon us as early as a few weeks from now, and so 90 days might be too late. And so again, I think that at this point I'm leaning towards the acceptance of this support, and I'm not sure that I've been swayed to go against it, but that's where I stand. Anyone else have comments or concerns? Councilmember Brown, do you have something you'd like to add?
Mr. Mayor, I'm persuaded that the interim fire chief needs this reorganization. But I also would agree with the vice mayor that the interim city manager is just that, interim. And that I hope that she would not go stretch too far in her various imaginations as far as future changes. But I'll support this change.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else have comments, questions, or concerns? If not, at this time, I'd accept a motion.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Councilmember Kimball.
Move to approve with the organizational structure as proposed for 9.13.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion on the item? At this time, take a roll call, please.
Councilmember Kimball?
Yes.
Councilmember Potter?
Councilmember Brown?
Yes.
Councilwoman Gussie?
Yes.
Mayor Price?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for the discussion, Council. Moving on to item 10.1. This is an item in which we shall discuss and possibly take action on appointing one citizen to fill the vacancy on the Planning and Zoning Commission. This is for discussion and action. As you know, Council, the revamp of the BCC early last year led us to a different way of doing things. Each of us has a committee member that we can submit to Council for their approval and appointing. I received 5 different applications. I was able to interview all of them and had great lengthy conversations with them. The reason I had these conversations is because that appointment of the person who left was my appointment, so it falls to me to make this suggestion to Council. The person that I would like to propose to Council for appointment is Brian Joyce. Brian, are you in the audience tonight? There's Brian. I'd like to ask for Council's approval on Brian. As I interviewed many qualified candidates for planning and zoning, it's something that I wanted to point out. We had several engineers apply to this position. That's a big change from what we've had in the past. Brian has an engineering background as well as an architectural background, and I just felt that over all the candidates, he was the most qualified and would fit the Planning and Zoning Commission the best. So with your approval, Council, I would like to submit to you Brian Joyce as my selection for the P&Z appointment. So with that, is there any discussion?
Is that a motion?
If there's no discussion, I would motion that we approve that.
I'll second.
So we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion on the item? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Welcome to P&Z, Brian. Thank you. Okay, that leads us to item 10.2. This is a discussion and action on appointing one citizen to fill the vacancy on the Public Safety Personnel Retirement System Board, or PSPRS. This is for discussion and action. This one is a little different than our other boards and commissions, as it is part of Arizona state statute. And as I was discussing with the city clerk and legal earlier, in answer to your question, Councilman Potter, this initial come out, if you will, is usually a 2-year appointment. But after which, the statute says that when somebody leaves or there's a vacancy created, that goes from a 2-year appointment to a 4-year appointment. This does not apply to the BCC City Code Board, which would be attached to the given term of the person appointing. So again, it's an Arizona state statute. So this term is for 4 years, and this, as per the city clerk, would start today if approved by council. I had 2 applicants for this. The statute says the mayor shall appoint this person. I had 2 applicants. One was referred by a member of city council. Both were very qualified. I had the option, the ability to talk and speak with both. In the end, I spoke with and decided for council's approval, Will Large. Will, are you in the audience today? Right there, Will. Let's give him a round of applause. In my discussions with Will, I think that he would be an excellent addition to this board. He's an individual that has many qualities that are important to the PSPRS board, including which he is a member of the Arizona Department of Corrections. And as a corrections officer, I thought that that would be a very valuable addition. So with council's approval, and if there's no further discussion, I would submit to you a motion to approve Will Large to the addition of the PSPRS Safety Board.
Second that.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion on it? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you again, Will. Appreciate your service. Okay. At this time, we're going to move to item 10.3. This is a resolution of the Mayor and City Council of the City of Maricopa declaring as a public record that certain document filed with the City Clerk and entitled Article 8, Code of Ethics of the Maricopa City Code relating to the enactment of an ethics code for Mayor and Council of the City of Maricopa and amending the Maricopa City Code by inserting Article 8 in Chapter 2 of the City Code. This is for discussion and action. Obviously, Council, we did discuss this at some length in our work session today, and you've had the ethics code before you. Is there any discussion on this or questions or concerns that you need justified before moving towards a motion? Yes, Councilmember Kimball.
I'd move to approve 10.3.
Okay, we
Second.
have a motion and a second on the table. Is there any further discussion on the item?
And Mr. Mayor, just Councilmember Kimball's motion included the addition we talked about in the work session to 2-133 subpart B, subpart 1, where we added, quote, as defined by Arizona law.
Yes, all that stuff.
And I second all that stuff.
So we have a motion and a second as amended, and that's the item before us. Is there any further discussion on it?
Mayor.
Yes, Councilman Potter.
I'd like to publicly thank again the task force, Mayor, yourself, council members Gussie and Chaplados, and also for staff, Paul, for working on this for months and considering all the different options, and again during the work session, answering the questions I had. Now, there's no such thing as a perfect system. I completely understand that. The 2/3 vote, thinking that through for the last hour or so. I see what the task force was, the best option available, considering all the possible outcomes, we'll never know. So with that, I'd like to say I also support, we're going to have to do a roll call, but thank you so much for taking your time, everybody.
Okay. I believe this is the resolution. The ordinance is one that requires a roll call, so we'll just do a voice vote on this one if that's appropriate. Motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And then finally, that takes us to the actual ordinance. An ordinance of the Mayor and City Council of the City of Maricopa, Arizona, adopting Article 8, Code of Ethics, by references Article 8 of Chapter 2 of the Maricopa City Code and providing for severability and the effective date thereof. Obviously for discussion and action, but again, it's just a follow-on. So we have a motion.
Second.
And a second. Is there any further discussion on this item? Seeing none, can we move to a roll call, please?
Councilwoman Gussie?
Yes.
Councilmember Chapados?
Yes.
Councilmember Brown?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Farrell?
Yes.
Councilmember Potter?
Aye.
Councilmember Kimball?
Yes.
Mayor Price?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Yes. Thank you, Council. We appreciate all your work and your effort. And to the citizens that have participated this evening, we thank you as well for coming. We have no executive session, so Council can I have a motion to close for this evening.
So moved.
A motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. We'll see you in 2 weeks. Thank you.